Verticals Podcast, episode 103. Yeah, it's a little bit of a technical issue here on the YouTube side. We'll get started on the Spotify side here in just a second. Just want to make sure you guys can actually hear me because apparently Stream Labs has been having some problems, and it's not just me that's been going through them. It's everyone else who uses it. But luckily, I have a different vendor who I use for streaming purposes, and so I'm just to make sure you guys can hear me. I'm gonna check on my phone here as I'm recording live. Spotify side here. Okay, so it's working perfectly. So we'll sort of bypass the traditional greetings and pre-show for a couple of things. One, because the show has been delayed because of the StreamYard stuff. And also, as you know, I live in Florida and we're about to get the typical sea breeze storm. So I'm with you guys hearing thunder in the background and stuff like that. We're going to go ahead and get started here in a second. So get set up here on, we're about to start the Spotify side of things, but we're live on YouTube right now. So again, apologies for this. That was not my intention, but StreamYard crapped out. Their site's not working, but thankfully, this other vendor, Restream, is working. So that's always good to have two vendors that you use. And just to check if StreamYard is back and running, I don't think they are. Nope, they're not. So it's the same error everyone else has been getting. So if you use a StreamYard, then you know what I'm talking about. So, and anyway, so we're about to get started here in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Verticals Podcast, episode 103. Here on this June 12th, 2025, high atop about to be stormy Jacksonville, Florida. Mentioned this already on the YouTube side of things. On Spotify, this may not matter, but if you're curious, we had some technical issues on the YouTube streaming side. Not my fault. It was StreamYard's fault. They are having some issues with their site as I'm recording this on Spotify and on YouTube right now, as we are live on YouTube as we're doing this. The StreamYard site is not working, so it's not just me. Other folks have noticed this as well. So luckily for me, I have an account. We used to actually use a Restream. We don't anymore. We moved over to StreamYard, but thankfully Restream is available. My account's still there, so we can't continue on our show. Because if not, then if we didn't have this account, I would have probably pushed the show back to tomorrow. But I didn't feel like doing that. So, but anyways, nevertheless, we are here. I got a big show for you guys today. A lot of things to talk about. You know, the SEC just released their TV schedule, mostly. Some of it not announced totally yet. Just a spelling error on my notes here. Fix that here. Move that out of the way. Yes, the SEC released their TV schedule. I'll go over that. A lot of their big games. Besides week one, we've known the week one games for a while. It's the non-week one games we are discussing. And on top of that, we had a new Superman trailer, the final trailer. Of course, tickets are on sale now. Thoughts on that? The team record projections series continues with Texas Tech. And then we'll get into Q&A. And like I said, of course, I live in Florida. Didn't know that already. We do have afternoon storm. So because of that, I don't want to have you guys hear thunder and stuff in the background. Because I'm pretty sure as I check the old radar scope here on my phone, that we are, as I'm recording this, we have storms in the area, kind of. So they are moving to the west, but still, you never know. So just in case, we'll keep the show faster paced than usual because of later start time. Again, as I mentioned on Tuesday, we will not have a traditional show Thursday. Thursday will have to be a pre-recorded show. So I'll try to do that Wednesday or maybe Tuesday after we do the live show Tuesday. So regardless, the next Thursday will have to be another Q&A non-live show. We'll have to make it a premiere show. I'm not a big fan of doing that, but we have to still continue these shows for you guys. We'll never leave you guys hanging. Even if I go on vacation, we'll have stuff prepared for you guys. Evergreen shows prepared ahead of time. So there'll always be content even though I won't be here. So there's always going to be that. So let's actually get into the show here. Actually, before we actually do get in and get some water here. Getting chicken, make sure everything looks good. Restream's looking pretty good. Audio's looking good. By the way, too, I know we've been behind on the Spotify stuff. Don't worry, those episodes will be available mainly saying to this YouTube crowd because again, the Spotify folks aren't live. Apologies for not getting that episode on Tuesday out yet. Still haven't done it yet. I'll do that this evening. Both of these, so you have content available to you. So apologies for that. But luckily on the YouTube side of things, of course, it's live, so we'll always have that available. So the SEC released their schedule. The rest of it, besides week one, we already know. But all of week one, all of the channels, all the SEC teams will be on. I believe the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, they'll eventually do theirs. It's around that time of the year, of course, when they do the supposed TV draft. So based on whoever is the highest priority of networks. So for the SEC, it's the 100% ESPN, Disney. So I guess they get the draft internally. You know which games are on ABC, which games are on ESPN, SEC Network, ESPN2, ESPNU, streaming, whatever. And then I'm assuming it's the same thing for the others. And just one thing to note, particularly with the SEC, when it comes to how it's set up in terms of, or I guess with ESPN mainly, this is more of a ESPN thing in general. I think a lot of folks get confused how ESPN operates these days because now they have a stranglehold on the SEC for the most part. Just to be clear, the Saturday Night Football stuff, besides it being like a one-off, ACC game like week one, because the SEC doesn't traditionally do games week one. I think it's been over 10 years since they've done that. All the ESPN on ABC Saturday Night Football games, besides a one-off Big 12 or major ACC or Big 12 game, all of those Saturday Night Football games on ABC will be SEC games, with the exception of week one and maybe a one-off like Clemson versus, Florida State game. Besides that, you're always going to get SEC games will get priority on ABC. That's just the way it's going to be. Now, of course, the 3:30 is a guarantee, but the Saturday Night Football, the noon kickoff, those are close to guarantees that you can get guarantees. So again, I know folks are confused on that. Yes, technically ABC can still do Big 12 and ACC games. They didn't last year for the most part, except for like a couple random noon games on for ACC. But yeah, the SEC, ABC, that's like, yeah, the ABC will only be doing SEC games, especially at night and at 3:30 for the most part, unless you get a random like Florida State Clemson game. If that's like a top 10 battle, then maybe. But besides that, probably not going to happen, at least under the current media situations. I just wanted to point it out as a disclaimer, and a lot of folks are confused by that. But yes, it's technically ABC, ESPN. Of course, they still have games on ESPN, right, for ACC and Big 12. But in terms of ABC games for those conferences, you're going to see those less now because of the SEC. That's just the way it is. I have no control over that. So, yeah. Now, these are not necessarily in order. This is just the games they have not announced yet that were announced yesterday, because this all dropped yesterday. But so first, we're mainly doing the major games. We're not doing all the games because you have like a bunch of the SEC Network games and ESPN Plus games and ESPNU games. Like that's not the games we're really worried about. We're more worried about the big time matchup games, ones that are more intriguing. So I guess we'll go in order. It is in chronological order, but it's not organized by weeks. It's just I have it on my my Google Doc here in terms of chronological order. It's not organized by like what week it is, but you can figure it out where it takes place. But so the Oklahoma Michigan game, non-conference game. This will be the 7:30 game on ABC. So it'll be Saturday Night Football, SEC edition. No brainer. Of course, this will be Michigan's first time on ESPN in about a year or so. So that's, I guess, besides bowl games, so that's pretty cool. Same with Wisconsin and Bama. That will be noon, I believe, on this same week or the week after. I don't remember for sure, but this will be a noon game for a big Wisconsin fan. You should be used to noon games, so this shouldn't be a surprise. This will be on an ESPN network, so it's either going to be an ABC or ESPN. Probably would assume ABC because the brand-wise, I guess nothing to do with how bad Wisconsin will be this year or not. This one's pretty fun. So Florida LSU is going to be a primetime game on ABC. Thank you. I firmly believe this will be one of the biggest games of the year in the conference. This one, Texas, Florida. Of course, for LSU, it's a revenge game. UF will at this point would have played Miami. That game has not been determined yet. I'm assuming that will probably be one of the random ACC games on ABC, probably, I would imagine. But yeah, so that one we do know will be a 7:30 kick on ABC when that game takes place. Now, I believe this is for week 5, I believe. So in week 5, there's we don't know for sure yet, particularly with the bigger matchup games. There's two ones that are to be determined. It's Auburn versus Oklahoma. That's in Norman. Then it's South Carolina and Columbia, Missouri. It's a battle for Columbia's, I guess. We don't know which networks they'll be on. Well, we know it'll be on an ESPN network. We just don't know will be an ESPN game or an ABC game. Like primetime games, these will be more likely afternoon or night games. If I had to assume now, because we don't know, I guess we're just projecting here. I'm assuming the Auburn Oklahoma game will probably be the SEC on ABC Saturday Night Football game with Christian Kirk, probably. Then the Missouri South Carolina will probably be like a 3:30 game or on ABC or maybe like a primetime game on ESPN. So if I had to guess, Auburn OU, because of the big brands, probably just spat it on ESPN or not ESPN, ABC probably. Let's see here. So this is an interesting one. I think a lot of folks forget this is happening. Notre Dame's going to Arkansas, much like last year when Notre Dame went to Texas A&M. So they'll be on ABC again. Pretty rare for them. Well, I guess not too rare for non-home games, but except for the playoff because that happened last year. But yeah, Arkansas is hosting Notre Dame. That's a noon game on ABC. Kind of sucks. It's not a night game night game in Fayetteville, which would be pretty cool because if you guys don't remember, back in what was it? I believe it was in 2021 or 2022 when Texas came to town. And of course, last year had the Tennessee game. I'm mainly talking about like a big non-conference game. Like I still have memories of that game. That Texas going to Arkansas. This is of course that same year, well, that after the summer when we learned about the commentary alignment stuff. It was an electric environment there at Razorback Stadium, and there's the Texas coming in. It was a massive game, and the fans rushed the field. It was Arkansas completely blew out Texas that night. Kind of wished we'll be getting that same energy for this game. It's a huge game for Sam Pittman on Arkansas, just to get another resume-building win for him in his coaching career, which I would imagine only be at Arkansas, because I would assume if he does get fired, he'll never coach again based on age and given his current skill set. Nothing against Sam Pittman. It's just that I don't expect him, if he gets fired, to take another head coaching job. That's my expectation. That's the industry expectation as well. So, yeah, I kind of wish, if you're an Arkansas fan, would have liked this to be a night game on ABC, and they're not. I'm still imagine this would be a high energy game, right? It's at home. It's early in the year. Still a lot of hope there for Arkansas at that point. Bama, Georgia. That's the ABC primetime game. No big deal. Or no big deal because we knew that beforehand. Texas UF. We don't know yet. Now this, I would imagine this will probably be the SEC Saturday Night Football game on ABC. This one is no brainer. It's not been announced yet, but I'm assuming they're just waiting to see how Florida is. Injuries a concern. Of course, at Texas, we believe this should be good with Arch Manning, but given the health status of DJ Lagway, if he can stay healthy, if he's still the quarterback there, still starting, it's not like how it was last year where the walk-on from Yale was starting. This should be a primetime game on ABC. So that game, it's not determined yet. I would imagine this should be the Saturday Night Football game. Auburn, Georgia. Georgia, of course, going to Auburn. It will be an evening game on ESPN, on an ESPN network. It's not determined yet, but of course we know it will be on a ESPN network. My feel here is that this will probably be, depending on where Auburn is at this point in the season, if they have one loss or two losses. If they have one loss or more, probably won't be an ABC primetime game. But if they do have one loss, it's only lost to OU, I think, at this point. This should be, unless they don't lose to Baylor too. If they only have one loss up to this point, this should be the Saturday Night Football game, I would imagine. And it'll be a first for a number of things. First time, of course, Auburn would have had a Saturday Night Football game on ABC because, back in years past, again, it was, ESPN was the ESPN only had access to the SEC and not ABC because of the current media deal back then. So that'll be the first time, I believe, at least in my lifetime, the Auburn would have a night game on ABC. Of course, they had the game last year when OU came to town. That was on ABC, but very rare to have Auburn have a home game on ABC at night. So if that's the case, then if that is the case, then that'll be pretty cool. And of course, also this will be, I believe, the first time in over 10 years Auburn has had a home game against Georgia at night. Most of them have usually been on like 3:30 on ESPN or not ESPN, on CBS. Of course, before CBS moved on to the Big Ten. I believe the only other time there was a night, only other times it's been a night game for the Auburn-Georgia rivalry. It's either in Athens, either on ESPN or mainly ESPN because, again, CBS did 3:30. Yeah, I guess that's the only time up until, I think, way over 10 years ago that Auburn, Georgia has been at night. It's only when Auburn has been to Athens. And the last time this game was a primetime game, well, quote-unquote primetime, was back during the disastrous 2012 year for Auburn, which was, I believe, on ESPN2. So, yeah, it's been a long time since this game has been been a night game. So if you're an Auburn fan, if you've been waiting for this game to be a night game on whatever network, you finally got your wish. It's a big deal. So should be fun. Then the last little note here, again, some of the other games we have listed on here. Look on the website too. Like, for example, we do know Bama versus LSU is a night game. We kind of figured out be the case. Some of the other games on rivalry weekend, a couple ones to know. We do know that Clemson, South Carolina will be a noon game, which sucks. But it makes sense given those aren't the biggest brands in the world. But look, I would have liked to have that game at night at Williams-Brice. I would, especially if I was a South Carolina fan. But what is interesting is that not only do we have Georgia versus Georgia Tech in Atlanta, which makes no sense, makes absolutely no sense outside of money. Like, there's nothing wrong, I would imagine, with Bobby Dodd Stadium, but I guess according to the people who have, the bow ties and sweater vests, they assume there is a problem with it, which makes no sense. But what is noteworthy for rivalry weekend is that the Texas A&M game is the late primetime game on ABC on Friday. So it'll be back to its traditional Friday slot. So that's good. It'll be in Austin this year. So that's pretty cool. That's getting that somewhat standalone game treatment. So that's pretty cool. But for the most part, I agree with most of these. Some of these I disagree with. Would have liked to see in South Carolina, Clemson, at least in the afternoon or evening. Ditto with Notre Dame and Arkansas. But for the most part, I agree with most of these. And of course, you won't know fully when, as we get later in the season, the TV schedules are announced fully because, as you know, the conference will usually do on socials. They'll post, what times the games of the week will be. Well, at least the conference games on on Tuesday or whatever, and that's when that is announced. So we don't know all of the game times yet. Of course, that'll be determined based on in-season results. But so far, I agree with most of these. Having UF LSU at night, ABC makes sense. Texas going to Florida should be a night game on ABC. So I agree with most of these. Again, would have liked to seen some changes. Again, would have liked to seen South Carolina, Clemson be a night game. Same with Notre Dame, Arkansas. But for the most part, I think for those of you especially who are not big fans of Big Noon Kickoff, this schedule's for you, I guess, right? This is kind of what you want, especially if you're not a fan of the old Big Noon Kickoff. And hey, if you're a Ohio State fan, and I'm assuming they will be playing each other next year, at least you'll be able to get that treatment next year, although it won't be at home, unfortunately for you. But anyways, as we merrily move along here, again, we're probably going to keep this show a little bit shorter than it usually is, because as I check the radar at the current time as I'm recording this, both live on YouTube and on Spotify, we do have storms in the area. And again, and if you guys happen to hear thunder and stuff in the background, we're going to keep this show somewhat short, because we are starting to see some storms pop up on the radar. But so that's thoughts on the SEC schedule. Get some more water real quick, and we'll move on to Superman trailer thoughts. So yesterday, James Gunn and DC decided to release the final trailer for Superman along with the ticket sales. Now, a couple of days ago, they did a pretty bold move, and I'll give James credit and him and them where credit is due. Now, look, I think a lot of folks this is a very polarizing topic, and personally, I don't think it should be, but I understand it, especially with James Gunn, the way he carries himself on social media, very much so, kind of the way people think Lane Kiffin is, to a certain extent, kind of a troll and whatnot. I have nothing against him personally. I like most of the stuff. I was not a fan of Guardians 2. I've made that pretty perfectly clear. I've had my reservations for the Superman film. Now, for the most part, I've been mostly defending James, but defending James, both. Well, I mean, not all the time, but sometimes I've defended him, mostly for other things. But yeah, his antics on social media, some of the things he's done in terms of like how he's treated the Superman film, and having only a very selected, group of people in the media who went to that freaking media thing last year. Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with that. But I guess for the most part, I've been pretty, I don't know, I guess in the middle on the James Gunn stuff. Again, I know some folks have personal issues with him in terms of the way, again, he carries himself. Others are, mad about because of the Snyderverse stuff, and others are just mad to be mad about stuff. And again, look, I'm not the biggest fan of his style. Again, I like the first Guardians. The third Guardians was pretty good. Second Guardians of the Galaxy, I totally just don't like. The stuff I've been hearing about Superman, it's been pretty mixed. Some of the jokey stuff. We have the super shit rumors that was going around a while ago. Apparently, it's there's been rumors going around about maybe that's been taken out of the movie. We don't know for sure, but I'm assuming it's probably not. Of course, we've heard rumors about the framing device for the movie, which was supposed to be days of the week. That's apparently been taken out. I mean, that's been collaborated by multiple people who know things in Hollywood. One of them being Jeff Snyder. So there's been a lot of trepidation, a lot of nervousness about Superman based on the rumors and the leaks and the stuff that, just in general, just the way James Gunn carries himself on Twitter. A lot of folks sort of get bent over, I guess they sort of get bent out of shape about it. Look, I have my own thoughts about it, but that's kind of neither here or there. But for the most part, besides the first trailer and parts of the second trailer, I've mostly enjoyed some of the stuff from Superman. Again, the first trailer, I kind of agree with a lot of people, it wasn't the best. Second trailer was a lot better. Some of the dialogue, especially at the beginning, scene with Clark and Lois in the interview and him getting really angry. I was like, that's a little, I don't know if I really like Superman getting that angry. I much prefer him to be more commanding, but whatever. Again, some of the joke stuff, very Snyder. That's not Zack Snyder. That's totally opposite. Very much so James Gunn-ish humor, which is okay, fine. But this final trailer definitely is the best balance of both. Where you still get the James Gunn jokiness, but you do get some serious stuff in there, some cool special effects stuff. Finally seeing David Cornsweet Superman, the heat vision stuff looks pretty good. The CGI definitely looks a lot better now than it did back in December, which a lot of folks are making a big deal about it. I was too, but as expected, they polished it up and they certainly have time to cook. Overall, again, I think it looks good. Yes, do I have some reservations about the humor stuff and look, if it's anything like Guardians 2, then I'll be disappointed. All right, I was never a fan of that movie myself, and I believe Christian Harloff kind of think the same way. Him and I both were not fans of that movie, but in terms of this movie being in tone of like Guardians 1, that's fine. I can deal with that, right? Because the first Guardians, if you don't remember, was very serious at times. It could also be really funny, so it was a good balance. So if it's like that versus Guardians 2, then I'm fine with that. But yeah, I was never a fan of Guardians 2. But so far, this trailer is giving me more Guardians of the Galaxy 1 vibes versus the second one. Again, I think the CGI looks pretty good. I know a lot of folks are still complaining about, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, how he looks stupid. And look, I get it. It's from the comics. Is it the most appealing look for Green Lantern? No. But if it's accurate to the comics, and whatever. I know a lot of folks have been, trolling about it and whatnot. I've done that too as well. But I don't personally hate it. Is it weird? Does it look a little goofy? Yes. But whatever. And of course, people are still complaining about the dog too, which I don't have a problem with it. I understand people do have a problem with it. The problem being it's not a lab as it is in the comics. It's more of a schnauzer, I believe. But still, whatever. That stuff looks fine. A lot of the flying scenes of Superman have definitely looked a lot better than they did previously. So they have polished up a little bit. But given the toxicity, again, I understand that's around. I don't really have much joy in talking about it. And again, I do acknowledge it's there, but this is not what this show is about. And look, is there things I'm worried about? Yes, of course, I just mentioned that. I'm so worried about it, but I am getting excited now as we're seeing the marketing get ramped up, and now tickets are on sale. And one thing that is interesting is that according to a lot of folks who follow the box office stuff and track all that type of stuff, and And again, usually this isn't stuff that's like really that important, especially from the fan standpoint, because again, you're not the ones who are reaping the rewards of the money and stuff. But it is fun to track it though. But for what it looks like, the ticket sales from yesterday, and I think that also includes the Amazon Prime stuff, because that was the thing that James did. I think I was going to mention it a few minutes ago, but I didn't mention it. But yeah, that's what they did. They did the old Amazon Prime thing. It was pretty bold, but apparently, like some of it wasn't selling out. Like some theaters were not. So maybe it was just like a very limited reach. But now all the sites are promoting it now, and of course, all of them start crashing because everyone's on there at the same time, and the servers can't handle it. But it appears, based on what I'm hearing or looking out on Twitter and different reports and videos and stuff like that, it does seem like that the box office, the early, ticket sales have completely surpassed Fantastic Four, which is amazing. And what that does mean, it's not guaranteeing anything, but it does signal to me, well, yes, given what we've heard about, the changes the movie's been through, Superman, and how there's been a lot of, I guess, nervousness about it. It definitely appears that at least to the general public, not the hardcore people like me and you, at least if you're watching this, but I get it at least signals that the general public is at least willing to see this movie. They're excited about it. They're willing to go out and see it, and it certainly sounds like, even though it may not be the better movie than Fantastic Four, because again, from what we've heard, Fantastic Four, no real problems that they had reshoots, but it wasn't anything major, just some extra things they were able to get in before the post-production stuff really started to kick in. But it does seem like that Fantastic Four may be the better movie, but Superman may end up performing a lot better, which makes sense, right? Superman, in terms of the superhero movie zeitgeist, it's more popular than Fantastic Four, even though Fantastic Four, in terms of being general broad of comic fandom, they're more popular. Well, at least they're on par with Superman, because they're Marvel's first family, but definitely does seem like Superman's gonna make a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna make $1 billion. It definitely, based on the current way the ticket sales are going, it definitely seems like the projections are going to be pretty high for this movie, and along with Fantastic Four as well. But I do believe, based on where we're at right now, the fact that it is tracking a lot, or at least it's getting a lot more ticket sales than Fantastic Four, it definitely sounds like at least it's tracking towards making more money than Fantastic Four. At least at the moment, that's the case. And if that is the case, what a win from Warner Bros., man. You have Sinners that came out. I never saw it, but I've heard it's good. Same with Minecraft, even though I do play the game. Didn't go see it. It's not for my demographic, but I am aware that a lot of folks did like it. Yes, it's not like a top 10 favorite movie of all time, apparently, but folks were going to see it. And, if you're Warner Brothers, look, there's reports that were coming out, and look, they were legit reports saying that, hey, WB was getting really concerned, and there's a lot of people saying this could be, a studio changing results potentially of Superman flops. And it definitely seems like in the moment they could potentially be avoiding a pretty serious disaster. And in fact, it sounds like they're going to end up having a really good year, actually, for Warner Brothers, and a year that definitely a lot of pressure, a lot of ambitions, and a lot of expectations for this year. It seems like they've either met or are going to exceed that. So, golf clap to the folks over there, even though those other things need to fix over there too. But it seems like they could end up having a pretty good year, despite early nervousness at the beginning of the year. But yeah, again, the trailer I thought looked good. Ticket sales definitely a good sign for Superman. So as we move along here, again, we're probably going to have more of a shorter show, again, given we started late and there are storms in the area. So so I'm lieu of you guys hearing thunder in the background. And so far, so good. The storms are mostly still developing, it looks like, based on radar, but at the moment we're live. But so far so good. And again, as we're sort of here right now, I actually didn't do this at the beginning for some reason, but maybe we'll just do it now. Make sure you subscribe. Again, we started to stream late. Thank you, StreamYard, but luckily we have another vendor we use, or a backup vendor. So anyway, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're here. If you've made it this long if you made it this far into the stream, or guess in the podcast feed, make sure you subscribe to Spotify, YouTube, wherever. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review, like the stream, like the videos, follow me on Twitter. You're pretty active over there, a lot, pretty often, and we're not the oldest show. I believe our anniversary has it already came? It must have. Let me see here, because I believe it may have actually. So let me double check here, because I know it's coming up soon. I don't think it has yet. Oh yeah, it did happen. How about that? Our 1 year anniversary. Was this? When was this? Oh, that was a couple days ago. How about that? So I did not realize this, that our show on Thursday, or not, well, today's Thursday, on Tuesday was our anniversary show. I didn't know it. How about that? How did I not realize our own anniversary? How did that happen? I, all right, well, yeah, I guess we're over 1 year old. So yeah, so we for some reason missed our anniversary show. But anyway, regardless of that, yes, we are not the oldest show, but we are the newest. We've been around for 1 year. But anyway, again, make sure you subscribe. That's all we ask of you. We don't show up to your house. We don't send you emails. We don't send you stuff in the mail. Just subscribe. Don't. The goal of our show, and I guess, now here I am going a whole filibuster about, probably should have done this on Tuesday, but again, I totally forgot that was our anniversary show. But our goal of our show is to give you guys the best content possible for college football, Marvel, Star Wars, Buccaneers when we do it. And don't worry, we'll get some intel in Tampa because they started up off-season camp already, so we'll dive into that here within the next week or so. But yeah, we try to give you guys the best content on those topics, right? And this is a show that, when we started last year, I was inspired by, guys like Josh Pate and Cover 3 for the football stuff, and, a little bit of other shows. And then for the Marvel Star Wars stuff, mainly Josh over at Den of Nerds. So a lot of inspirational people that have been, or at least people I've been inspired by. And we tried to do a good show, try to do a really good quality show. We try to do the show live when we can. Of course, a couple weeks ago we couldn't do the show live. Well, last week we may not, well, definitely not doing the show live. Next week on Thursday we'll have a pre-recorded one. But our goal was to always give you guys content, even if we're not able to do it live. We'll always have content around with you guys, and we're trying to grow our show. We're over 100 episodes in, which is a milestone for us now. And yeah, I just can't believe we missed our anniversary show on Tuesday. How did I not know that? That our anniversary of our YouTube channel, at least our show starting, was this time last year. I totally forgot that. Now, of course, we celebrated our 100th anniversary show, but who knows? Maybe we'll. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we just may make, or we just might end up making our pre-recorded show next week, next Thursday. Maybe we just may make it, or might make it our anniversary show just later. Here I am thinking out loud as we're doing the show live. But anyway, again, thank you guys for tuning in. I know we're still growing. We only have 5 subscribers, but look, we're still growing. And look, I've had fun doing this. We'll continue to have fun doing this. It's going to be great. Of course, we have the college ball season coming up, the NFL season coming up. Of course, we have the college ball video game coming out soon. A lot of things happening. So it's going to be fun. And, we've been around for over a year now, and now over a year, and we're still growing. So yeah, as we kind of take a break here from the show, I guess, the middle of the show. But yeah, so let's actually get back on track here after just going that whole detour. Team record projection. So we did this, speaking of last year, we did this when we first started the show last year, and we were doing, because we started the show so late and we had like no limited amount of time to do all the teams we wanted to cover. We literally had to do, and you go back, look at the old shows mostly on Spotify. Literally had to do like 2 or 3 teams projections a show. I know it was a lot of work, and of course now we can space it out a little bit more now because of we started this back first week of May. Now it's the first week of June, so we had a lot more time to do all the teams. Now, of course, as we get closer, we'll probably start doing at the very most two teams per show. So you might start doing that here probably in July, probably. But yeah, so we've been doing a lot of teams so far. We did Florida Tuesday, and now we have Texas Tech, Joe McGuire and Texas Tech. Now just double check here, make sure we didn't do them all right. I don't think we did. Of course, I don't have it on my document here of all the teams we've done. I don't think we have. We did Texas A&M. I don't think we've done Texas Tech yet. So that's good. We haven't done them yet. So perfect. Yeah. So just double checking there. But so Texas Tech, Joe McGuire has been there for a number of years. Sort of been a bit steady, if you will. They've definitely of course, moving off of the Matt Wells era, they, he gets fired. They bring in Joe McGuire, has a lot of experience. Not so much in college, but he has a lot of high school experience. I mean, go look at his Wikipedia page. He's been a high school coach for as long as most of you have been alive, up to including me. So he has a lot of experience. Has been in the Big 12 for a number of years. Is there with Matt Rule, and he was there with Dave Aranda for a number of years as a associate head coach. Overall record 23-16, 8 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins. Pretty good. Now, I know last year definitely was a little bit scary last year, and I still don't understand what the whole thing was. I know a lot of folks were kind of talking about, them potentially moving on from him because of the whole, they lost Washington State and they got blown out in that game. And a lot of folks are sort of, I guess, there were a lot of rumors about him getting let go because of the Abilene Christian game and the Washington State game. I think a lot of folks, if I recall correctly, are bringing up, hey, if he gets fired, maybe they should go get the J.G. Kine guy. I think that's who it is, J.G. Kine or Kenny from Texas State. Now, that didn't happen. They sort of righted the ship a little bit, and they, finished 8-5. But what he's done over there in terms of recruiting and building up this team, whether it's the transfer portal or just again recruiting in general, he has done. Being Joe McGuire's done a very, very good job at Texas Tech. I mean, they have accumulated a whole bunch of talent, and this is interesting to say the least. And this is very interesting to see how they built this up. And their schedule, by the way, sets up very, 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 very favorable for them to a certain extent. And there's some tough games in there, or potential tough games. They start out FCS team, G5, Oregon State. Then they go to, is it back-to-back road games? Or no, there's a bye week in between. So technically on the schedule, without the bye weeks, it is back-to-back technically. Utah and Houston on the road. Those are not easy games. The Houston game is a rivalry game. Utah has been sort of the model of consistency. Well, I guess in the little Pac-12, and I guess if you want to carry their history over, they're a very consistent team. Last year was not, because they had quarterback problems, guys being out injured. We'll see what this year looks like. So at least it starts off reasonably easy, right? With at Utah, at Houston, I don't think those games really, you don't fear those games that much, or don't fear those teams that much, though. Of course, I say that, and you could lose those games. Certainly, I mean, the Utah game for sure, it's on the road. You're going in higher in elevation, an area of the country we love. I'm sure a lot of those athletes have never been to before. Houston's rivalry game, that's a, Willie Fritz being there, that's a team that's on the rise. And they also have a very manageable schedule, apparently. Kansas, we'll see with Jalen Daniels. Can he actually throw the football again? Who can actually read a defense without Andy Kolnicki for second year in a row? Arizona State, that's probably your toughest game. Kansas State, same. Then luckily you get UCFI at home, and that's going to have to travel to Orlando. Then West Virginia, the last weekend of the regular season on the road. Of course, that's Rich Rod and company, his second tenure there. So it's a manageable schedule for sure. Again, the games you're probably dogs in, or at least short favorites in: Arizona State, Kansas State, West Virginia, maybe Utah or Houston, but I imagine you'll probably favor in those. Oklahoma State, I'm not too concerned about. BYU, we'll see. But I will say, though, that Oklahoma State game is sandwiched in between your two biggest games. So maybe backtrack that. It doesn't seem that concerning, but it could be potentially a trap game. So just, we'll keep an eye on things. But based on that schedule, based on what we have come back in, the transfer class they brought in is absolutely insane. Lee Hunter, if he's motivated, he's pretty good. A lot of high-level guys and high-level players coming in. And, of course, they were able to retain a couple of guys, one of them being Micah Hudson, who was a five-star guy out of high school, leaves, goes to A&M very briefly for like a month or two, and then or at least during spring practice, then he ends up coming back. So he's back there now, and he hasn't done a whole lot. He's fairly green. He's a freshman last year. But he's, again, a high-level guy, five-star guy. A lot of folks, especially in the recruiting circuits, were very surprised to see this, five-star receiver coming there. We'll see if he develops. I believe the quarterback, Brennan Morton, is still there, so he's back, and we'll see if he stays healthy. They have done a very good job of recruiting and also getting talent there. Again, the talent acquisition using the portal, especially in today's college football. If you can do it with both, right? If you have a good combination of both, and not using the Florida State method, which is all on the portal, or using the Clemson method, which is for the longest time not using it. But those folks up there, Joe McGuire, again, I haven't met him personally. Like I haven't done interviews with him before, but I've watched interviews with him. Josh Pate, one of them, or one of Pate's interviews with him. I think he was out there last year, but he was there this year too. So again, I just don't know the same. Unless you haven't been paying attention, again, they have done a very, very good job of acquiring talent. They're a really good team. Again, they have their billionaire booster and he's going to spend a lot of money. And I think the expectations for Texas Tech this year, based on the talent they have and how much money they're getting poured in, they're expecting to win a championship, man. Like that's a very weird situation. Again, outside of Mike Leach and them in 2008, and I guess a little bit briefly in 2013 and during Cliff Kingsbury's first year. Remember when they started out 7-0 and whatnot? That was like the last time they were like ranked in the top 15, and they ended up losing like 5 in a row or whatever. But besides, since then they have not had a lot of national attention, and I think this year you are starting to see that. But I think a lot of it is folks only realizing it now based on the billionaire coming in and the transfers this year. But they've been building this over the past several years. And again, if you've not been paying attention to college ball, unlike me, you would have never known that. But people like me who watch Cover 3 and Josh Pate, we know that Texas Tech has been building this, and they have slowly becoming a very trendy pick over the past couple of years to be a very good team in the Big 12. And now with the power vacuum being sort of unfilled after OU and Texas left, and now we've brought in a lot of former G5 teams. A program like Texas Tech, given proper funding and having a good coach who knows how to acquire talent, both in the portal and recruiting, this could be a very good program going forward. And as long as they can keep things steady, injuries, sure, this could be a very good team this year. I'm just telling you again, the expectations over there in Lubbock are to the level we haven't seen at least in a number of years, in a long time. So, because of the talent they have coming in, because of their schedule and how manageable it could be, the best case scenario is 10-2, and I'm not lying about that. I totally believe a 10-2 regular season is on the table here. Again, their toughest 2 games are Kansas State and Arizona State, and they're on the road. So you can imagine best case scenario they probably lose those 2 games. So I could definitely see that happening, and that may not be those 2 games. They could easily lose to Utah or on the road at Houston. It could be any one of those, any 2 of those 4 games. You could easily split those, and I wouldn't be too surprised. But that's your best case scenario is 10-2. The worst case scenario is 7-5, and a lot of this has to do with the transfers not panning out. Maybe some of these guys, like Lee Hunter and maybe Mike Hudson. Again, we don't know for sure why he left originally and went to A&M and then left. Apparently, has to do with potentially off-the-field stuff. We'll see. But, injuries could be a concern here. Again, they're good on the top level when it looks like at Texas Tech. They have good top-level guys, transfers, and recruits. But their depth is not the best, so that's why I'm a little bit concerned in terms of, if guys get injured, especially early in the year or later in the year, what's their depth situation look like? Do they have good enough talent, at least in Big 12 standards, to get them to where they want to be? So the worst case scenario is baking that in. Plus, again, you have the Oklahoma State game sandwiched in between the Arizona State and Kansas State game. That could be a trap game. Of course, you have those 2 games I just mentioned in the Utah and Houston game. So, yeah, that's where the 7-5 kind of comes into. There's at least 4 or 5 games I could definitely see them being dogs in or very short favorites in. So it's we'll see. But my most reasonable outlook for them, the most reasonable scenario, what's like the most the outcome I could definitely see happening is what is that? I think 9-3. I think you could lose to those 2 teams I just mentioned. Again, I don't know for sure. That's just me projecting here, but maybe it's to Arizona State, Kansas State. Maybe it's you lose to Utah or Houston. So that's not impossible to think, but given it's the Big 12, that's kind of expected, right? It's very it's a conference that no one has really separated themselves from, right? Everyone in the conference, especially in the top level and mid levels, are pretty close in terms of talent level. Coaching staffs are pretty similar, so Yeah, I think best case scenario for them 10-2, worst case 7-5, reasonable 9-3. Again, 7-5 is definitely much in line of what Texas Tech has been over the past couple of seasons. So that's what edge in there as well. But I think it could be a pretty good team this year, and I think they could do some big things. 9-3, 10-2 is definitely good enough to get you to Dallas, and I think that's where a lot of folks would imagine, based on again their recruiting, transfer portal, money coming in. That's where I think those fans would expect you to be at. I would imagine that's the goal, to get to Dallas, and they could do it. They could certainly do it. And they could not do it, and that would be a bit of a disaster. And I think a lot of folks would be very disappointed based on everything I just told you guys. So, look, it's a very interesting situation for them. I mentioned back when we did our coaches under pressure, I mentioned Joe McGuire on there, and it wasn't because he didn't get fired or anything. I don't think he would. But again, there's a lot of pressure for him to win this year based on what they've done off the field and how they've been progressing over the past couple of years. So we'll see. I got some Q&A here, and then we'll move on. So first question here, we got two questions. Who is the best QB in the Big Ten that is returning? Is it Luke Allmeyer, Drew Aller? This makes sense. I think if you were to use those two names, those are probably the big two names in the conference right now. And there's a lot of turnover too, right? You have Nico at Tennessee. You have Oregon with Dante Moore, who, again, I know a lot of folks are excited about him. We'll see. The kid of Ohio State, whoever's going to start, I believe it is going to be, why I forget his name. Is it Aaron Nolan? I know he's still there. I think it is going to be him. Regardless who it's going to be, who it is. Actually, let me just double check here. I'm pretty sure. How do I not? Oh, Julian Sand. Aaron Nolan's not there anymore. But I think he is there, but he's not going to start. I don't know. That's been a lot of things going from my head right now. But yeah, so Julian Sand, he's new. We don't know a lot about him. Oregon, new quarterback. Ohio State, new quarterback. USC, new quarterback. So yeah, in a conference where there's not a lot of big names, and even with Dylan Raiola, well, we know he is capable of doing a lot of big things. We've seen flashes of it. We still don't know a whole lot. And he's talented. Look, again, I have full trust in Matt Rule to get them to a better spot. Well, he has been doing that, but at least elevate themselves now, sort of rise up a little bit. But Altmaier at Illinois, Burt Bielema, he's very experienced. Was at Ole Miss years ago. It feels like a long time ago now. He's been at Illinois for a couple of years. He's been very, very good, very consistent. Sort of playing within their system there out there in Champaign. Drew Aller, I know a lot of folks hate on him because James Franklin, Penn State. He's still a good quarterback. Yes, he can improve a little bit. Yes, maybe the big game performance has not been totally what they thought they were going to get from him. But look, I still have faith in him. He's going to be a really good quarterback for them, I think, this year. He might be the reason why they may win the Big Ten this year. We'll see. But Allmaier, Aller, you could definitely put Dylan Raiola up there if you wanted to. But he is still a little bit young. And Nico, I guess in total, he's not a new quarterback, but he has a new face. So, that's definitely two names up there. I guess three if you want to add it in, Raiola or I guess Nico at UCLA. Last question here, and this is one that I've seen a lot, at least a topic I've seen a lot, and this is the last question here of the show. This is a topic I really didn't want to talk about because it is very much going into the it sort of transcends beyond the comic book genre, sort of the I guess the MCU fandom proper. It's just, I don't know. It is a subject that a lot of folks are have opinions on, but I guess I wanted to explain what's happening here with this. So the question is, explain the Sue Storm hate. There's a lot of hate, or maybe not hate, but just maybe hate's the wrong word to put. A lot of conversation, if you will, about Sue Storm and how reports were surfacing. This is going on multiple years ago when Fantastic Four was in development. The rumors were that Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, Reed Richards' wife, was going to be a center focus of the film. That's not, if you've been following the leaks and stuff, that's not old news. That's not new news. That's stuff we've known for a number of years. That's not shocking. And look, too, this is nothing against Vanessa Kirby. I've never met her before. She's not a friend of the program. I'm assuming she'll do fine in the role, but it's just, there has been a lot of conversation ever since those rumors came out, mainly within the Marvel, I guess the Marvel hardcore fans. There's been a lot of conversation. Is this the correct move? Should Reed Richards be more of the focal point? Because technically he is the leader by defunct, but And there's been various times where Sue's been the leader, and I believe Ben Grimm's been the leader too, at least the leader in terms of the team. But again, her being the leader of the team, at least in the movie, not surprising if you've been following the leaks like I am. But as we sort of gone closer to release, and of course with the trailers and stuff, it has become pretty clear that those rumors were true, and whoever was putting that out on Reddit and stuff like that clearly has people that they know within Marvel and Disney that knows what's going on. And you've seen a lot of folks complaining about it, saying, "Oh man, this sucks" and whatever. it's sort of it's the usual talking points you see going around. And you guys know, if you've been watching this show for over a year now, because you're old, you guys know I don't really dive into that type of stuff. This is that type of show. I mean, if you want to go talk about that type of stuff, you go to like NBC or CNN or whatever to talk about that. What I'm referring to. But it's just I don't know. I mean, look, I haven't seen the movie yet. The trailers look good. And again, look, I have nothing against Vanessa Kirby. I think she'll do fine. We'll see how everything I have seen from the family dynamic, and that's the core of the film. Like it doesn't matter who the leader really is in the movie. To me, what really matters is that if they can get the Fantastic Four, the whole family dynamic correct. And I think the only time they've ever gone that correct, and it actually wasn't even a Fantastic Four movie, is The Incredibles from Pixar. I mean, that's the only time we've ever actually seen the content above a Fantastic Four team work, and it's they haven't gone it right in the early 2000s films, and they certainly didn't do it in the 2015 crapper movie. Kind of movie is so bad. So yeah, that's to me what's more important. And again, I understand folks are, not happy about her being the central part of the marketing, and it's come out that she is indeed the leader of the film again, or leader of the team. And look, again, I haven't seen the movie yet. I usually, my stance on when it comes to films and stuff, I will see the movie. I'll go and see the movie, and if I'll be judging it based on how good the movie is. I don't care about this other external stuff. Look, even with Superman, right? We've been hearing about all these rumors and leaks about the super shit stuff, and it's like, look, it may sound bad, but we may go to the movie if it's in there and it's fine, and that's good, right? I'll go in there open minded. I'll see it for what it is, right? And it could be pretty good. Same with this, right? If Vanessa Kirby can put out a really good performance, if I can buy her as the leader of the film, or not the leader of the film, Pedro is the lead actor in the movie, and he's first in their credits, right? But if she can pull off being the leader of Fantastic Four and I can buy it, who cares, right? If it works, it works, right? I don't care about this external stuff and all these talking heads on Twitter and whatnot and on Instagram and YouTube. It's like, again, I will see the movie for what it is. If it works out, if it works for me, then it works for me. If it doesn't work for me, then it doesn't. That's just the way I view things. I don't use external things to hinder my viewpoint of what a movie is going to be. And even with my reservations for this film, and even with Superman, look, again, all the leaks and rumors, but a mixed bag. But look, when I go, same with Thunderbolts too. I was concerned about that too. I went into that film totally cleared my mind beforehand. I went in there. I just wanted to have fun. And after going out, I had fun with it. I liked it. That's all. I think that's all that matters, right? And all this behind the scenes drama stuff. And look, it's fun to report about it. And yes, it's for, I guess, historical purposes or purpose. I guess it's supposedly the plural purpose. It's fun to look back at it. But yeah, when the movie comes out, if I can buy it, her being the leader of the team, the performance and everything, then that's fine. There's no problem about it. But again, I know a lot of folks, they have more of a problem with it. And look, I get it. That's their platform. If they want to speak on, that's totally fine. They can do that. If you're more like me, that's totally fine. I understand it. So look, people have their own opinions. They're like Billy Buttons, right? Everyone has one. It's very slippery slope to talk about. It's something the show's not really about. But yeah, I mean, it's out there for sure, and I know a lot of folks have been. It's become a very volatile topic in the world of the Marvel fandom right now. But again, like I said, I'll see the movie for what it is. If I can buy it, her as leader of the team, that's all I care about, and the performance as well. Again, she's not like I said, Vanessa Kirby's not a fan of the program, and look, I've never met her before. I don't think I've ever seen a movie of her before. This will be my first time seeing her in a movie. So, and look, from what I've seen from the trailers and stuff, it seems like she's doing a good job, right? The performance is on point to what I would expect Sue Storm to be like. So, yeah, I mean, At least that's my point of view on it. Again, I know other folks have their point of views on it. That's fine. That's totally fine, right? That's, your opinions are your opinions, right? That's cool, right? If we can all agree to this, we can agree on that. But yeah, that's the show for today. We've gone just a little bit over 15 minutes, a little bit shorter than the last show. Again, we'll be back on Tuesday. No live show Thursday. Again, no live show Thursday. We'll have a pre-recorded evergreen show. We'll probably do it again on 4th of July because we'll have to leave again. I'll actually have to physically we'll have to be going on a little weekend vacation. I'll be starting on Thursday. So yeah, no live show that Thursday before 4th of July. We'll have may actually do a couple of evergreen shows. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll double up. Maybe have some special edition shows that will be uploaded mysteriously throughout the weekend. So at least that weekend. Who knows? We may change my mind on that. It's probably in the show before I reveal too much behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, until next Tuesday, enjoy your weekend. I know the NBA finals are going on. They'll be back on tomorrow and I guess on Sunday. So, or I think Sunday, but whatever. Whatever you're doing this weekend, have fun. Here in Florida, it's going to be the same as usual, hot. Storms in the afternoon. I know Father's Day, by the way, this weekend. Congrats to all the, or not congrats, for, I guess have a great weekend, I guess, to the fathers out there. But yeah, so enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, Friday, weekend. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next